This is how I got millions of website visitors for free using Google News. Mick Maney here, ProfitCopilot.com, and yesterday I asked a segment of my email subscribers if they wanted to learn how to get traffic from Google News. Now, I've successfully indexed 2 websites in the platform, so I know firsthand how amazing it can be for traffic. Now, the response from yesterday was very positive, so here is how to do it for yourself. But before we get into that, if you are serious about this stuff and you want as much traffic as you can handle, then do stick around until the end, because I want to give you a free 4-day traffic intensive course, and that's going to show you all the stuff I never share on YouTube or anywhere else. Okay, so let's get this out of the way immediately. I know that there are dozens of courses out there, and they're being sold for hundreds of dollars sharing this information, but they're making all these kinds of crazy claims about Google News. The truth is, okay, it's not easy to get indexed in Google News. In fact, it's pretty difficult. And I've had my own sites rejected multiple times before I managed to get in. And it was really through a process of trial and error that I figured it out. So, listen, if you don't get in the first time you try, that's fine, okay? Because you can apply as many times as you want to. So I really do encourage you to keep going with this, because the rewards are just enormous. Here's what we're going to cover today. So first of all, we're going to look at the benefits of Google News. Obviously traffic, but there's a whole heap of other benefits that you might not be aware of. We're going to look at the type of content that Google News is accepting. It's not just news. And we're going to look at the action steps that you need to take to get your site prepared. Then we're going to analyze some of the algorithm, so you know what to do, what to look out for. And then we're going to focus on what to do if you don't get accepted, because there's action steps you can take to remedy that. Okay, so let's go to the computer and take a look at what Google News is, how it works, and allow you to decide for yourself if this really is the right traffic source for you and your business. So the traffic levels are pretty epic from Google News, as one might expect. So it's getting consistently over 500 million visitors every month. Crazy levels of traffic. Most of that comes from the United States, 9% from France, then Japan, Germany, India, and quite a few regions and territories have their own version of Google News as well. So maybe you are not interested in targeting US traffic. That's fine. You can target your local Google News website. Okay, let's take a look at what it is. So it's broken down into a few key sections. So we have top stories, then we have For You, following, news showcase, and saved searches. Then we have different sections here. So we have different topics and locations. Now, if I type in a keyword here, what it's going to do is obviously bring back relevant news for that keyword. However, I want to show you something really special with Google News. So if I type in, let's say, a really popular key phrase, such as, let's go with, Netflix. Okay, short tail key phrase, single keyword. If I type in Netflix, now it's going to bring back all the recent news articles about Netflix. Good stuff. But what happens if I go to the organic search engine results pages, so just typical normal Google, and I put in Netflix? Check this out. So we have some organic listings here, but if we scroll down, we've got top stories. So the content here is being pulled from news organizations. These are indexed in Google News. Now, what it's effectively done is allowed us to leapfrog through all the other content in the search engine and hit the first page position within minutes. That's really the power of Google News here. Obviously, you're going to get traffic from Google News itself, but you're also going to get the second and third waves of traffic. So effectively, this is called QDF, Query Deserves Freshness. I'll speak about that in a little bit more detail later on, because it is really important to understand, and also understand the limitations, because these listings don't last forever. They're pretty short term, but they are amazingly powerful for massive spikes in traffic. I'll speak more about that a little bit later on. So before we dive into the actual meat of what you need to do and why you need to do it, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's get prepared first. So what I want you to do is head over to the plugins section of WordPress. If you're using WordPress, I'm going to assume you are, because by this point most people are. So what we need to do is search for a news sitemap. Now this result here, the very first one, is absolutely perfect. If we click on that, it's going to allow you to generate XML sitemaps for Google News. Now, there are plenty of paid options out there and they're all fine and well, but this one is just as good. It's going to give you everything you need. No, I'm not associated or affiliated with this. I just know it's a really good plugin and I know lots of people are using this. So this could be a good option for you. So that's going to allow you to generate Google News sitemaps, which are really important. Okay, once you have that installed or a similar plugin installed, you need to sign up for Google Search Console. Now, this is going to give you advanced analytics. It's going to allow you to keep tabs on what's happening with your site in terms of Google. It's also going to allow you to submit sitemaps, really important for Google News. So I want you to go ahead, create an account on there. It's free. If you don't have one already, I'm going to assume you do, because by this point, most of us have this already. We also need to be aware of the Google Publisher Center. Now, I'm going to put links to these in the description, so don't worry about that. And what I want you to do is when you have prepared your site and you're confident that you will get accepted, what I want you to do is hit the Add Publication button inside the Google Publisher Center, fill in the details here, and then that will submit your site for approval. Okay, with all that sorted out, let's start getting unlimited traffic from Google News. So why would you want to index your site in Google News? Well, first of all, you're going to get free, unlimited traffic as often as you want. Every single time you publish a new article, you're going to get traffic. It's as simple as that. So you're going to get that traffic really quickly, literally within minutes. It's going to allow you to leapfrog a search position with QDF, as we've briefly touched upon. Now, the thing with QDF is you're going to get maybe a day, maybe two at most, depending on what else has been published in that space. So if you're targeting very competitive keywords that lots of people are writing news articles about, well, the time that you spend on the front page is going to be pretty limited. So for best results, what I recommend you do is target popular competitive keywords, but ones that aren't absolutely trending right now. It could be a good idea to have a mix of both in the works, but you want to make sure that you're not competing with yourself. Okay, instant credibility in your niche. That's another massive benefit of being indexed in Google News. People in your space immediately assign authority and credibility to you because you are aligned with one of the biggest news sources on the planet. Okay, it's amazing for SEO because you get this second wave of traffic and backlinks from other websites. So you're not just going to get traffic from Google, but other bloggers, forums, social media. Everybody picks up on your story. I'll speak more about how to ensure that happens. So you're not just publishing content that gets forgotten about. There's a very specific strategy to getting that kind of traction. I'll speak more about that in a couple of minutes. Now, as I mentioned, it's not just news articles that get accepted into Google News. You can also publish opinion content. You can publish user-generated content. Listen, I'm a big fan of user-generated content because we can effectively have our audiences and our communities generate the content for us. All we have to do is curate it and then publish the best. If you want me to create a video about doing that, let me know in the comments. I'll go ahead and do that for you. We can also publish blog posts into Google News. Now, this one is a little bit ropey because they don't just accept any old blog posts. They have to be done in a very specific way, which we'll speak about again later on. They also accept press releases and satire content as well. So don't feel limited to just news articles. Maybe even experiment with different types of content and find what works best for you. Okay, let's start preparing your website for publication in Google News. So first of all, we need to use clean permalink structures. What I mean by that is inside your WordPress dashboard, go to the settings section, go to permalinks. And now I want you to make sure that the post structure looks really simple and clean. So for example, here we have plain at the top. This is probably your default setting. I want you to change that. So choose one of the other common settings, or you can use a custom structure if you want to. Okay, next you need to create that news XML sitemap for the Google Search Console, which we've already touched upon. Then you need to add your site to Google Publisher Center, which I've shown you previously. Also, you need to have a page that lists your physical address, or the physical address of your news website. So you could even have that on an About Us page. Absolutely have an About Us page and go into the history and the aims of your organization. Give Google some meaty content so it understands what you're about and why you exist. This is a really important step. You need to list all writers and editors and their contact information. Again, that can be on the About Us page if you don't want to have separate pages, each of your writers. Next, you have to create original content. Really important that you do that. Also use H1 tags on your headline. Now, if you are using WordPress, you probably already do that. But if you're not using WordPress, that is something to be aware of. Make sure you use H1 tags on your headlines. Also add a date and a byline to every single article you publish. That is vital. Next, the more writers you have, the better. Now, you can publish in Google News as a single blogger, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. So it's going to be easier the more writers you have. And in either instance, you want to be publishing multiple articles every day for best results. That's going to increase your chances. And also practice good journalism. Be balanced. So when you're creating content, no matter as a blog or a news article, you need to be aware of the why, what, how, and when structure. Bring that into your content. That's going to create your articles in the type of format that Google News expects to see, and obviously present a fair and balanced view of the stories that you're covering. You want to avoid leaning in any one particular direction. So be fair, be balanced. Where possible, also get original quotes, speak to people, actually uncover genuine news and current events relevant to your industry. So your theme needs to be mobile friendly. That's really important now. And your website has to load fast. Word of caution, avoid using redirects. I know it's really tempting to use redirects on your website. There are some benefits, but not when it comes to Google News. Also, avoid clickbait headlines. Listen, I've spoken before about the power of using clickbait when it's done in the right way, but this is not the time to use those type of headlines. And perhaps one of the most important things to note is you have to niche down. So for best results, choose a niche, go deep into it, and then only cover news about that particular topic. You don't want to go off creating a website that has got entertainment news, sports news, politics, all this stuff. You want to niche down to your area of passion and go deep. And that is how you can really get results here. Okay, the Google News algorithm is made up of a few key points. So first of all, content relevancy. How relevant is the content to your industry? This is why it's important to niche down. So Google News has a reason to index you, because listen, if you go up against the BBC and the New York Times and all those, if you try and compete with those guys, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to get indexed. So keep things relevant. Present authoritative content as well. Get good sources, produce content that speaks explicitly to your target audience, and do it on a regular basis. So the content has to be fresh, it's got to be timely, and it's got to be relevant. Also, the location matters. So if you're focusing purely on, let's say, local news, that's really important too, and there's nothing wrong in doing that. You can set up a local news website for your geographical area if you want to go down that avenue. I know plenty of people who have done that and have had really good results. Language is important too because Google News publishes in multiple languages. Okay, what if you're rejected? Chances are you're going to get rejected if you don't do things in the right way. So what happens if you are rejected? Well, first of all, don't panic. It's going to take several weeks for approval. It's a manual process. They're going to analyze your website and they're going to make a call on that. And that takes time. So don't worry if you don't hear anything for a while. It can take up to a month. If you are rejected, you can reapply after 60 days. You can apply as many times as you like. There's no limit. You don't get blacklisted or banned or anything like that. You just have to wait 60 days. If you are rejected, sometimes they will provide little hints and clues on what you need to do. So if they like your website, if they really like it, and they know that you're close to being indexed, but there is just one little obstacle or a couple of little issues that you need to overcome, sometimes they will tell you that. They have told me the issues in the past. It actually boiled down to an issue with an XML feed that I was running. So I fixed that, and yep, a month later I was in Google News getting heaps of traffic for free. But on the flip side, sometimes they won't tell you. So either way, you're going to have to make changes to your site and your content. So go back through this video, maybe bookmark it or keep notes, but go back through this, look at what Google News expect to see, and make sure that you're leaning in that direction. And really important here, keep publishing news. If you're just waiting to be accepted into Google News before you start publishing, you're not going to win, okay? You have to keep publishing news, and they expect to see some kind of history here. So what I want you to do is set your schedule, and then I want you to be consistent with it. So multiple articles every day, irrespective of whether Google News accepts you or not. That's the best way to get in, is to show them that you're doing this for real and be consistent. And that's true of any marketing strategy, because when we are consistent, you can achieve amazing results. Take a look at what one of my students has achieved. He's Matt, and he's making over $2 million using my traffic methods. And if you are serious and you want to know the secret, then I will give you all the traffic methods that I never share on YouTube or anywhere else for free when you go to profitcopilot.com/traffic or click the link in the description or the thumbnail on screen now. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I will hopefully see you again very soon. Take care.